I'm Jeffrey Grover, and this is another in my videos on grief and loss. If you knew me back in 2017, you knew that I had lost my dear son, Jeremy. We lost him, I should say, August 21st, 2017, to a very sudden and shocking death. And if you didn't know me then and you know me now, you are certainly aware of this. And if this is your first time, that's only part of the story. I'm not doing this as a cathartic way to purge and deal with the things that I can speak about more calmly now in retrospect, but rather to help you as I come clean, if you will, on some things that if you've lost someone recently, or you are in the process of potentially losing someone, or maybe lost someone years ago, or in the future, God willing, many years for those you love, things that you may have to process. People ask me, how do you deal with it? A friend of mine recently asked me, who lost her son, how did you deal? How did you get over it? And I said, you don't get over it. You come to terms with it in different ways, and I don't think there's a formula. My message to you today is, there are some aspects that address the issue of forgiveness. And I want to say this because I haven't said this in previous videos, that there are things that I did, particularly with Jeremy, said in my past with him, obviously well before he passed away, things that I regret, things that I wished I'd done differently, comments that I made that were meant to be maybe supportive or in a strange end around, attaboy kind of a thing, which really backfired and were really misheard. Comments I made about, make sure you don't hurt yourself, when he was very upset about some stuff, and he inferred that I was saying, I don't care if you hurt yourself. Can you imagine how that feels? I don't go to a priest, I'm Jewish. I don't even go to a rabbi on this. I just find within myself the fact that Jeremy and I went forward. It's indelible in my mind, and if you have things like that you said to your loved ones, my basic recommendation is don't beat yourself up over it. Acknowledge it. Know that you're feeling it, and believe me, I do. And yet you could still go forward because they forgave you, assuming, in this case with my son, that over time we did a lot of great things together. Would I have done that particular thing differently? That comment, in that moment, I can't even recall the exact construction. Yes, of course. Not for myself to feel better now, because I don't feel better now, even if I hadn't said it. Rather because I obviously want to think in the past and going forward that everything was rosy and wonderful. If you can tell me that you and anybody you know and love have a rosy and wonderful, unblemished relationship with no events, I would challenge you. And I'm not betting on the election coming up. I hope I'm going to be right about who's going to win, but we're not talking about that. If you know me, you know who I'm speaking. I hope wins. I'll just leave it at that. Ideally, if I'm sitting here in front of you saying, mea culpa, I said something to my son, and other things over time to other loved ones, I'm being honest. Because if you color code it, or sugar coat it, I should say, in your looking back in the past and think that's going to actually say, okay, everything was perfect, you're never going to get over it and go forward. And you will never get over it necessarily. But that will stop you from going forward if you can't say, looking in the mirror, yeah, I wished I'd done that differently. And it's okay, because in a sense, they do forgive you. And you need to forgive the next person who comes along and does something to you or says something to you that they probably didn't mean, because, they love you. And if they don't, screw them. I'm Jeffrey Grover. It's January 16th, 2022 or 24. Yeah. And as Larry David says, don't say Happy New Year if it's 2 weeks after, but Happy New Year. Thanks.